a hub, it's not necessarily to put out new research, new knowledge, new analysis out there. It's not about creating a new network or new platforms or new databases. These also exist. And certainly I think everybody that's involved in this hub process doesn't want to duplicate or replicate what's already there. What we don't have and what this hub can and should contribute, and I think it's really on the way to doing that, is four things. One is we have a lot of information, but we don't really have a quality control function. We don't really have anything that functions as a clearinghouse that can synthesize and tailor the information that's out there for the specific needs of particular actors. So, if you're a UN agency looking to program around food, what are the three things you should read for this geographic context, compared to if you're a European government foreign office representative trying to put together a strategic position on climate, peace and security. You're going to need different information. So how do you where do you go for that? There isn't really an entity out there that can provide that clearinghouse function, sorting, adding an element of quality control. And this is important that this is done as an objective kind of external entity. A set of independent think tanks are in a position to do this, whereas national governments or international institutions are not able to do this because they will be very much shaped by their member states. The second thing that we don't have is this analytical function. We talk a lot about best practice. What can be scaled? We don't really have, beyond the internal project evaluations, we don't really have any analysis that tells us what is the best practice we should be replicating, and also what is the practice that we perhaps shouldn't be replicating. And I think this is another important function, to really kind of look objectively at the projects and programs that are out there, the knowledge that's out there, to really kind of raise up the best stuff that we really should be scaling, and maybe not giving everything an equal footing, because that just creates too much information. It creates overwhelm, and there's really no calibration of what is best practice and what isn't. And part of this is also strengthening our impact evaluation processes. We don't know, we have a lot of practice, we don't know what's best practice unless we know how to measure this. And I think this is, again, a really useful function for this hub to look at what's already out there and start to understand what makes something best in given circumstances. Because, of course, what's best practice in one context won't be best in another. So we really need some oversight, some analytical function that can sit above the existing knowledge to see what works in this particular geographic context, what can be then scaled and replicated in which circumstances, and in which circumstances will it just not work. And then the final thing that I think this hub can really offer is this advice and on-demand support, because there is a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of organizations with a lot of expertise whose day job it is, such as AGDA, such as Adelphi, such as ODI, who can who have core staff who have been working on this and really understand these issues. So it's not necessary for institutions to start building this capacity in-house. It can be a really useful service to have a drawdown function, to have this on-demand capacity to essentially almost pick up the phone or write an email and get the tailored information that you need for your particular question. So yes, we do need transformative change, and that to get there we don't simply need more money, we also need to answer the how. If we got the money that we want to fragile states, what do we do with it? How do we program better? And I think to get to that how, we need to really maximize the information that's out there, and I think the hub has a really important role to play there. And just in terms of the four themes that my co-panelists will speak on, I think it's great that we have this starting point of these four thematic focus areas, but I think it's also really important to put this under a frame of understanding that this is about complexity. It's not about understanding climate, peace and security in 4 standalone silos. Everything's connected, everything is complex. So we do need to start somewhere in terms of a structure, but I think it's really important that we, as we think about the Baku Hub and what it can contribute, understand these priority areas that are mentioned in the call as foundations, not as silos, not as streams or pillars, but as foundations upon which we can build our understanding of the ways in which these 4 themes interlink within and across each other. And I'll leave it there for the other panelists to kind of dive more into the 4 themes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifications and details. Actually, you made it clear how we will cooperate in the future. Thanks again. And our next speaker is Rebecca Nadine from ODI. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much. We're delighted that ODI is able to be part of this hub, this think tank hub. And I'm also delighted as well to welcome you all to the Climate Peace and Transboundary Resilience here, which ODI is curating and managing. I think it's important because today, of course, is the Peace Day here at COP29. So at ODI, I am the director of the Global Risks and Resilience team, and our team has been focused very much on the question of how do you get finance into climate and conflict affected settings. And this really is a special moment because, as I mentioned, we're speaking in this pavilion. It's the first pavilion of its time at COP. And actually, it was just 3 years ago at COP26 that ODI co-hosted the very first event actually on climate action in conflict and crisis affected states. So that was 3 years ago, COP26. And now actually we have a pavilion here dedicated this theme, and we are sitting here together as esteemed think tanks to be talking about this issue. It really does feel like an important moment. And why is that? Not just because of what happens here at the COP, but because scaling up climate finance and adaptation action in countries affected by conflict and fragility is absolutely critical, but actually chronologically neglected piece of the puzzle. So on one side, I'm really proud that ODI 3 years ago was focused on this, but actually ODI Global should have been focused on this 10 years ago. So in a way, we're coming late to the party. Because countries affected by conflict or high levels of humanitarian needs are among the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And there's a statistic that I often quote. I quoted it this morning at the high-level roundtable. But I think it's important that we kind of bear this in mind. More than half of the world's 25 most vulnerable countries are affected by conflict and protracted crisis. So 25 of the most climate vulnerable countries are also affected by conflict or protracted crisis. But yet they receive some of the least amount of finance for climate adaptation and resilience. So ODI's research has shown that in 2022, countries affected by conflict and crisis received just 1/4 of the climate finance needs. I mean, that's crazy, just 1/4. So what we've been really dedicated to doing, and over the past few years, really trying to build momentum, build the understanding to scale up climate finance and adaptation action in countries affected by conflict. Because the costs of these climate hazards are mounting, as we well know. And we're clear that the costs of inaction are greater than the cost of action, yet not enough is being done to focus on this blind spot. It's not easy. These are complex environments, which means that actually the importance of research, of evidence-based, to help those who have the means to finance understand that things can be achieved with that money. So over the last few years, ODI has been working with actors, and particularly both the climate funds, the UN agencies, but most importantly the countries, so that this is very much country-led, country-driven, to really push and give a voice to really tackle this conflict blind spot. So we've been convening voices, we've been supporting governments of conflict and crisis affected countries such as Somalia, for example, and we've been commissioning new research. It's not just the conflict blind spot in finance, but it's also how do we get the solutions of how to invest? Because we're not saying it's easy, but we're saying it still can be done. So at COP26, we hosted our first session alongside the International Committee of the Red Cross, and since then the agenda has come. It has come leaps and bounds. At COP28, many of you were there and saw the launch of the Climate Relief, Recovery and Peace Declaration, which saw over 90 countries signing that. And this declaration has been really important in urging the ambition and scaling up support. And then again in 2024, under the COP29 Presidency, many of these delegate declaration signatories came together in workshops in Abu Dhabi, in Rome, and we held a round table at UNGA, which was with all of the various UN agencies, again, high-level country representation to really drive this point home. And now today, I had the absolute pleasure of sitting and working with the COP29 Presidency to host a roundtable here at the Hurkan Room to discuss the creation of a country-owned, country-led network of countries affected by conflict, crisis and climate change, with Ambassador Elshad Askandarov. He was a key speaker. We had Chad, we had Yemen, we had Timor-Leste, we had Sierra Leone, we had the UK, Ireland, many, many others there to really put a focus on this agenda and agree to pull together this network. So these discussions are a really important step. Often at the COPs, we can be there talking to ourselves, but actually I really see this as a really important initiative to keep that momentum going. The political will is clearly there. So that political will exists. We now need to keep driving attention to this issue and increasing ambition. And this is where I think the Baku Climate Peace and Action Hub for think tanks like the one sitting here, it's really important. Because as my esteemed colleague says, we were able to provide that evidence, provide the analysis so that nobody can say, oh, it's too difficult, it's too complex, because we actually have the evidence to show that investing and driving finance into these areas is actually possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nadine, for very interesting points and thoughts. Indeed, it's very important to support these initiatives, and I think after Dubai COP28, COP29 in Baku is the right momentum to support this process and speed up this process, actually, because we know that the conflicts have direct and indirect effects on climate. So I think we can work together, and it's a great opportunity to establish this working group here. Thank you again. Our next speaker is Mr. Mustafa Bayumi from Anwar Gargash Diplomatic Academy. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, ODI, for hosting us in this pavilion. First, allow me to congratulate you on the launch of the Baku Hub, the Climate and Peace Action Hub. But also, it's a pleasure to be invited to this very interesting group of think tanks. I'll start by saying it's important to have a moment of reflection on how we got here, right? So there were seeds before, kind of linking climate with the security agenda, but as the previous speakers have said, there wasn't the political momentum, and that started maybe around COP26. That's when we started actually seeing things picking up. We had an excellent initiative at COP27, and then the declaration at COP28. We also had the dedicated day for relief, recovery, and peace. And I want to thank you as well for keeping that momentum, for having again a Peace, Relief and Recovery Day, for those initiatives. Because I will agree with the last thing that Rebecca said, is like now is the perfect time to keep that political momentum. Like we've put so much effort into coming to this point that it's the number one thing on at least on my list to do. Um, that would be my first point. My second point is just reflecting a bit as well on what we've managed to achieve ever since we had the COP28 declaration. So the first thing that we try to do is focus on the implementation, and I really hope that we will do the same as well with this initiative. And the reason why I'm talking about this is so throughout the last years, and I'll expand a bit on what Rebecca was saying, we managed, one example would be we managed to bring a group of MDBs and climate funds together in the same room for 2 days in Abu Dhabi, focusing on one topic, which is how do we improve access for fragile and conflict settings. And by the end of it, and with how the event was framed, or the workshop was framed, we actually managed to come up collectively with solutions that are actionable, that could be implemented, and by the end of the second day, we had champions who could actually take this forward. And that was excellent, but that's because we were focusing specifically on issues of access to climate finance, right? So that's something that the MDBs and the climate funds can actually come up with. But going back to what Janani was saying earlier about the analytical part, right? That's where you need a group of think tanks working together, because it's not always going to be an issue where you can bring the MDBs to solve, or the climate funds to solve, or the governments to solve, or the international organizations to solve. And I think that's where this is such a critical initiative, that we can provide, some of the inputs similar to what Janani was saying before, analytical parts, how do we support those countries actually with the best knowledge, synthesize the knowledge that is out there. I agree with Janani. We already know the overlaps, we know the interlinkages. Perhaps we need more synthesizing, perhaps we need maybe deeper dives in certain countries. But the knowledge is mostly there. We just need to work together to put it into something that is actionable, to put it into something that the governments can actually use, or the people working on the ground can actually use. And then my third point is on, one of the most important things is how do we build on what we have right now. So at the Academy, because we are part of the coordination mechanism, so we're tasked with the implementation of the COP28 declaration. So we started publishing more on climate security. We're even thinking of changing our research pillars to better include that topic, because we're focusing sometimes on water security and on food security. But now we're rethinking our research pillars to better include those topics, because you cannot think of them in silos anymore. They're all interlinked, right? And I think learning from each other, from the different think tanks, and having a think tank work group, that will help us quite a lot in tackling better those issues. And not just that, but also producing policy-based research that eventually can actually be used, that can be quite useful. So I hope we continue the work that we are currently doing. I thank you again for the excellent initiative. Congratulations again on the launch of the hub. And we look forward to collaborating with all our partners here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bayoumi, for your interesting points. Of course, the cooperation between think tanks will play a crucial role, and we have such expression, it's better late than never. So today we started this process, and I think that our cooperation will be very fruitful. Our next speaker is Paolo Storti, the Italian member committee of the World Energy Council. The floor is yours, please. Go on.
Thank you, dear colleagues, distinguished guests. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss about interaction on climate action and peace. And just a few words on the organization I'm speaking of. I'm here to represent WEC Italy, that the Italian National Committee of World Energy Council, that is the oldest and independent impartial energy community connecting leaders, industries, government, and innovator across the world, with a presence in over 100 countries, with national member committees, partners, programs, and future energy leaders, driving impact and meeting. Welcome. And I'm here to express our commitment to the objective of the Baku Climate and Peace Action Hub, and to explore how Italy, through the Italian chapter of WEC, can contribute to this crucial initiative that, as we heard from the ambassadors and other speakers this morning, comes to a pivotal moment. Everybody know how climate change does not merely alter ecosystem, but also deepen social vulnerabilities, aggravating instability and conflict in areas already under strain. As climate impacts like water scarcity, food insecurity, land degradation, and forced migration, that are among the top priorities identified by the initiative, become more frequent. They create conditions that threaten international peace. So the challenge are shared, and so must be our response, and that's the reason why I think that this working group has a crucial role. The Baku Hub offers indeed a platform that is essential for tackling these challenges holistically, enabling collaboration across region, sector, and expertise. By establishing a dedicated space where knowledge, experience, and strategies can converge, the Climate and Peace Initiative encourages collective efforts towards sustainable peace and climate resilience. Italy and myself personally, with the organization I am representing, is proud to be part of the group of lead countries of this initiative, and we recognize that only through such international collaboration we can find effective solution to the complex issues at the climate peace nexus. Our role reflects a shared commitment to addressing this intersecting crisis together. At WEC Italy, we see our role within the initiative as through the activation of our network, both national and international, and we can put the focus on enabling Italian actors to contribute to the shared goals. By leveraging our network, we aim to build the connection needed to foster impactful projects and share best practice that address specific climate peace challenges. By facilitating dialogue on the innovative methods that can connect Italian experts with international counterparts, WEC Italy aims to contribute to a shared repository of knowledge. Furthermore, our network can support the Baku Hub in identifying synergies between Italy's best practices and the needs of vulnerable regions. By doing so, we can help empower communities to adapt more effectively on the challenges we are facing, fostering resilience and reducing the likelihood of conflict over increasing scarce resources. As a think tank, we share the initiative long-term vision, that is to embed the climate and peace nexus within future COP priorities and ensure that the initiative yields sustainable, tangible results. This commitment to a durable legacy is vital if we are to address not only the immediate impacts of climate change on peace, but also to underlying structures that can prevent conflict from emerging. We are ready to contribute to the strategic planning and development of initiative long-term agenda. By participating in the working group, we can help outline strategies and recommendations that can secure lasting impact and allow the initiative to evolve with changing climate and peace dynamics. So thank you again for having me, and we are at your disposal to go on with this important initiative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Storti, for your points. Indeed, we can use the best practices from different think tanks and the countries to use in the future. And our final speaker, Ambassador Ahmed Abdel Latif, Director General of the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peacekeeping and Peace Building. Dear Mr. Ambassador, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's apologies for being late. First, and wonderful to be part of this first meeting of the Baku Climate and Peace Action Hub think tank working group. We are an Egyptian institution. We are an African Union Center of Excellence, the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peacekeeping and Peace Building. This is our 30th anniversary, so we were established already some time ago. And I have to say, I have not been part of I couldn't hear the previous remarks, but the denomination think tank involves a lot of different entities, you know, and we, I have to say, we are a bit of a think tank, but mostly a do tank. Most of our main activity is training and capacity building, and the work we do in terms of the knowledge generation come mostly through our engagement in terms of technical training and capacity building. We are also involved, and this is the think tank part, in a number of policy initiatives, in particular the Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development. We're the secretariat of that forum. And we are also, most importantly, why we are here, because we are the secretariat of an initiative called Climate Responses for Sustaining Peace, which was launched by the COP27 Presidency in 2022 when we hosted the COP in Sharm el-Sheikh. And this initiative was the first time that the COP presidency came forward with an initiative on climate, peace and security and COP, and said COP is a space where this discussion needs to take place. So we have been working to implement this initiative since then, working with many here present and many organizations, and we're very, we think, and this is the importance of this meeting, that the partnerships between these different institutions is very critical to advancing our efforts. I think one of the successful aspects of the CRISP initiative is that it had immediately our center as the clear kind of anchor of that initiative, as the mechanism, the institution that will take forward that initiative with partners. So that gave clarity in terms of a bit who is doing what, how we take it forward, and in terms of the different pillars of our work. Each pillar had different set of partners, and including other partners. So I've had some experience in terms of collaboration between think tanks. I happen to be also the co-chair of an African Union network called the Network of Think Tanks for Peace, Net for Peace, and that brings around 15 peace and security think tanks in Africa to work together. So collaboration of think tanks is important, but it's not easy, and I think this is a challenge. We need clear direction, and we need clear priorities, and that is where I think the hub can be very useful. It can help us give in direction. And I tell you what is not good collaboration and what is good collaboration, just as an example, so we are on the same line going forward. Not good collaboration among think tanks is then we have think tanks from, it's usually from parts of the world where they have more resources, who come and tell us, well, this is what we want to do, this is the research agenda, this is the consultants we're doing. Can you help us just, provide some feedback? We provide feedback, is not taken into consideration. That is not good collaboration. Good collaboration is that we define together the research agenda. We define together the needs the question we want to address based on our priorities, because we are in Africa are the ones affected by these issues. And help us, work with us, build our knowledge with your great experience in terms of addressing this issue. This is the good collaboration we want to see in a platform like this one, and we're very happy, very open to work with everyone in it, including some of the think tanks here represented. Adelphi, of course, has been a precursor in this important discussion, ODI and others. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Indeed, it's for your experience. Also, you brought very good example. So we think that we can use the best experience from the think tanks and to make this working group very successful. And now I want to pass the floor to Ambassador Irshad Iskandarov, Senior Advisor to COP29 Presidency. Please, Mr. Ambassador.
Hello, everybody. I've lost the track of the day, so I assume it's afternoon, right? You see a little bit miscoordination. So good afternoon, everybody. I will take from where Ambassador Abdulatif left with good cooperation, bad cooperation. We say in the COPs now that there is no good COP and bad COP. All COPs should be good, and in particular, all COPs should take into consideration the important issue of interconnection between climate and peace. Although this issue relatively recent and new to the framework of COP, the first ever talk, if I'm not mistaken, started the discussion, the contemplation as a talk at 26, and then the first initiative at COP27, the first practical initiative when the project, when the initiative building, the CRISP initiative was brought inside the UNFCCC, and then declaration in Dubai, which enlarged the horizons and made good progress in also enlarging the constituency which supported. And building on all of that, of course, with COPs there is a tradition that each presidency put its own brand and mark, develop something new. But it's also, I mean, through many thousand initiatives which emerge during each COP, you see that some of them are dying the next, if not day, the week COP is over. So COP29, our presidency decided not to develop any new initiative, any new thing just to have the brand of the initiative of COP29, but rather to bring existing initiatives on the one platform and to try to find added value and synergy between them. And we are very thankful that, of course, this might have been remained, wishful thinking, if not the owners of this initiative would join hands with us. And today, when we announced a Baku call for the action, for climate action, for peace, relief, and recovery, we immediately had, 7 countries together with Azerbaijan backing it. And those countries, they're important players, either holders of the previous initiatives of COPs or important players. UK, Germany, Italy, I'm coming from global north to global south, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Azerbaijan, Uganda. So the composition is also very important because we, I think, for the first time on this issue, have not just, cross-regional endorsement, but cross-regional ownership and partnership of the core initiative. So cooperation between leading countries in this field of the global north and south developed this initiative of the Baku call. And final element here, which I think would be legacy of our presidency, is that the hub, which will ensure this cooperation between important climate and peace initiatives, it would be hosted in Baku by COP29 Presidency. So what is this hub? Cooperation between countries, we understand it. It's the co-leads. We will, those countries represented by their foreign ministries, mainly climate and peace divisions, will be seated in a steering committee to discuss their project, to discuss what can they do together, what are the resources, where we have budget crisis, a budget exit on one place to offer the hand and extend the shoulder. But that is impossible without the deep thinking in that. Consultations, diplomatic track does not allow for the time, does not allow for a depth to get into maybe some solutions which are really workable solutions on the ground. And here the important role is for the think tank. That is why from the very beginning The COP29's approach was that think tanks should be instrumental part of this hub, and I'm very thankful today to our leading think tank, Air Center, to assembling this first working group come together of these think tanks, which will form this the backbone of this element, the think tanks element. So, as the steering committee representative here, we will be looking forward to receive proposals for reports, proposals for development of criteria. This topic relatively new, and there are a lot of different approaches. Who falls within the criteria of fragile? Who within the vulnerable? Who is the most vulnerable? What is the criteria for adequate funding, inadequate funding? All of these things which we use as a now political terminology, we would need for them to have an academic depth so that they're engraved in the body of the UNFCCC process, with the hope of enlarging the space, of having more interest from the Secretariat, which is helpful, but this is party-driven process. The interest should come and the strong argument should come from the parties. And then an important task, I think, the development of the pilot projects. Here, and the composition of our working group, the think tanks, is very, very unique, because I think most of the think tanks here not just think but also to do things. All of you not just developing papers, organizing conferences, bringing together experts, but you also implementing things in the field. You are making capacity building, you are making trainings, you are facilitating partners think tank, peer-to-peer cooperation. So those experiences would be instrumental in developing the pilot projects, and then together with the co-lead countries, together with the UN partners, together with partnership in the civil society, to defend, advance, advocate for them for scaling up. Then the argument for scaling up international cooperation and finance will be strong, with political clout of the state parties, with academic depths and fine-tuned, sharp projects, strict to the point, and with the support of the civil society. We are looking very much into this future with the understanding that at some point, when we are talking about the climate and peace nexus, it's not a connotation of looming distraction, crisis, but climate and peace gives us association with development and prosperity. Thank you very much.
And I will wrap up. Thank you very much, Ambassador Iskenderov, for great help with this initiative. We've been told that in 5 minutes we have to vacate this room. Again, thank you for ODI for hosting and Pavilion, and all panelists here traveling to Baku and supporting this initiative. Maybe we have 2 minutes for 1-2 questions, please, but very short, because again.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Paloma Noriega, and I'm with the Climate Change Secretariat. Congratulations, Ambassador, and all the partners for this amazing initiative. Just a very quick point. I think your pillars are going to be super helpful. Something I think you could also focus on is how to make NDCs and NAPs also climate sensitive and peace positive. And for that, I think something that would be helpful besides capacity building and training that you mentioned could also be like very practical guidelines, toolkits on how countries can really peace-proof their climate plans at the national level. Just this intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take into that account. I think there is no objections. In the beginning, during my speech, I outlined 3 points about the actions which we are doing today. I hope there is no objection, so we'll consider them accepted. And looking forward to work together. Again, we are open to some suggestions, recommendations from outside. Yes, I'll give the floor to finalize to Rebecca.
Thank you so much, and really thank you to the COP29 Presidency for this initiative. We're very grateful. I think it's a fabulous initiative, and one of the reasons why we're being asked to leave the room is because we have a reception here now, which you are all welcome to join, and this is part to celebrate the Peace, Relief and Recovery Day, to celebrate the initiatives of the Baku Call, the hub that we're here creating now, the network that's been announced. So it is a good reason that we are being asked to vacate, and you are all most welcome to join us here.
We have a formula from COP to COP. Can we add to this from reception to reception? And at 6:30 there will be a gala reception of the day at, sorry, which one? 7:30? 7:30, not 6:30. 6:30. Which place? Gobustan? Gobustan. Yerin adı nedir? Gobustan, Reception Hall Gobustan. Thank you.